Hello, Keenan, and thank you for your first draft of your personal brand presentation. And thank you for getting me the password. As you can see, I was able to open up your PowerPoint file. Now, to start things off, there are some technical issues with your file, with your presentation that I want to start off with. So, whenever you're doing a presentation like this that you're sending off for somebody to be watching later, you want to still maintain control over that. And the way you do that is by setting up everything to play through automatically. When I play this presentation, nothing plays automatically. Slides don't transition automatically from slide to slide. The various animations that you have going on through here, they don't transition automatically. You have to manually click to get them to transition in. And the audio files don't play on their own. I have to click on them. So you don't want to leave that control in your audience's hands because you don't know if they're going to do it properly. They might skip audio files or they might end it too soon because they don't know what's going on. Especially when you have multiple audio files on the same page, especially if they're laid out kind of weirdly. You just don't know. That's a lot of control to leave in your audience's hands that you don't want to trust that they're going to do it properly. So you want to be the one in control. And again, you do that through a couple ways. So first of all, with transitioning from slide to slide, you want to make sure that it's not on mouse click, but instead after a certain set duration. Obviously, you're going to have to make sure you set the right time so you don't cut off your audio, but that is something that you've got to make sure you do. And speaking of the audio, when you format that audio, again, don't make it them click on it, make sure that it plays automatically. And same goes for everything else. You just want to make sure that everything is set to animate automatically. You want to make sure that all of the animations are set to run on their own. You don't want to set things up manually clicking through. Now, the other option that you do have if you don't want to set all of these timings in place, what you can do is if you go under slideshow where it says record slideshow, you can do that and it'll start the slideshow and then you just narrate it as if you were doing it live and click through all of your content again as if you were doing it live, and it records all of that. So it's kind of an easier way. The only thing is it does it in one shot. So if you make a mistake, you got to go back and start from the top again. But that is another option that you can consider to making sure that you get this to play through automatically. Now, the other big issue is duration. Now, since nothing played through automatically, I don't have a specific amount of time that this lasted, but I went kind of based off of how long it took to transition through all the content and listen to all the all the audio files and get through all the content on all of the slides. Now, with all of that, again, I don't have a precise time, but this is easily over 18 minutes long. This presentation is supposed to be 3 to 4 minutes long. No more than 4. That's a maximum. So obviously you are well beyond that time frame. So that's really going to be the driving force behind the feedback that I give you and the idea behind really what you need to be doing with your transition from your first draft to your final draft is trimming this content way down to fit within that 3 to 4 minute time frame. And really what you're going to see that does is it creates a much leaner, much to the point presentation, something that just really hits home what you're talking about. The idea behind this presentation is to introduce your audience to you and your brand and what you have to offer and what this call to action is that you're putting before them. If they want to dig deeper into these details and learn more, then they will have further communications with you, or you'll have a website for them to check out, that kind of stuff. But you want to initially just kind of sell them on your brand and get them hooked on what it is that you're offering for their benefit. So as we go back on the top here and look through your content, I actually really kind of liked this quote that you opened up here with the idea of imaginative versus creative, although you never really came back to it. It was a really interesting idea, a really interesting quote. So I would love to see if you kind of took this idea and came back to it maybe at the end of your presentation or at some point. Again, just I think you have the opportunity to play with this idea of imagination versus creativity, but I want to see it more present. Now, it is nice to get an introduction into who you are. Again, from a personal side, it's definitely nice to see where you're coming from and also some of your skill set. That is very good. That is going, people are going to be very curious to know about you, to know that you can actually accomplish and deliver upon these ideas and this just general topic and concept that you're trying to sell them on. You're definitely going to have to deliver that. And I think you also do that really well here when you were talking about the part-time job you had in college and traveling and doing recording and all of that stuff with these various artists. So I like this. It's just, again, you're elaborating on things far too much. Like, I don't know if you need to go super in depth on all the specific equipment. You could sell the idea again that you did a lot of things. You could maybe put everything all, like, you have all the pictures on one slide. Maybe if you had a picture where you could kind of like combine them all or something to really just, again, sell them the idea, like, yeah, there was a lot of stuff, but while it was effort, I learned how to work with a lot of different things. So again, it's kind of selling that idea to the audience that you are well versed, that you do have this experience. However, these are really the only two times where you talk about your experience and kind of proving that you can do what you say that you can do. And I would think with such a big venture that you have of kind of this, mobile studio, that they would really want to know a lot more than that. They really want to feel confident that you have the expertise, that you have the know-how, even like from a business sense, and from the physical managing. Or if you're not going to do it, do you have people on your team that are capable of doing that? Again, because working with something like this is obviously there's more to it than just bringing a bunch of equipment to somebody's house. So really make sure you are answering all of the questions they could possibly have as you're selling them on this idea. Now, again, I think you've got a lot of good information present within here. Really hitting on a lot of things. It's just we go into way more detail than is necessary for this situation. Again, it's great. It's definitely a selling point to really show kind of the financial value of it, but we don't need to go super heavy in depth with this. Maybe that would probably be something that they would dig deeper into later. Maybe this would be something you would have on a website to show, like, hey, take some time and actually look at the value of what this is. And, just something that you briefly mention in the presentation and allow them to, show them that, hey, if you want to dig deeper into this, I have provided the resources online for you to, look into this and be convinced of that. And then looking at the other examples of this is not necessarily a bad idea, showing that it has been done, it can be done, but again, just make sure that it's all very relevant and just think about time constraints and make sure that you are having accurate and honest examples. The John Lennon one is a little bit confusing because this obviously has a very contemporary setup, which obviously John Lennon does not have, as he is no longer living. I don't know if they had anything of this nature back in his time. Obviously, it would have been drastically different. Um, and if so, I mean, that's fine. That's also interesting. You could maybe even use that to show the advancement that such things have made over the years. But again, just make sure everything is honest and accurate. And then you do kind of wrap it up here. Kind of really show like kind of this idea of all of this meeting this and coming together. And that's kind of your message here at the end is let's bring together and let's bring this new idea out, and really I can help you. And again, all of your information here is good. Your message is solid. It's just we're delving way too deep into certain things, or certain areas start to get kind of a little bit repetitive. Some of these slides in here, if you really start to evaluate the message and the content that you are delivering within them, you'll start to find that certain things start to get repeated, certain things start to appear multiple times within your presentation, and it's all about making it lean and mean. Make this thing as efficient as possible. Just get to the point, keep it moving, keep your audience interested, keep them engaged. Now, as far as your delivery of your content, on a visual front, you're heading in a good direction, and as you trim down content, obviously you'll trim down visual content. But I like things like this, again, where you're showing what you're talking about versus things here where it just turns into a bulleted list. It can get a little bit boring of that way, but again, showing examples of what you're talking about versus just text on screen. We don't need to read what we're hearing you say verbatim. Having more visual representations of what you're talking about and things to support it, I think, are going to be much more successful and much more effective. And then also just be mindful again of how things are animating in, making sure that things come in on time with your narration. That's why maybe the record slideshow option might be a little bit better, because then you can totally do that freehand, but it records it instead of having to futz with timing. But if you want to go that route, that's fine. It gives you more control. So just play around with it and make sure everything is timed perfectly. If you continue to use animations, and then of course be mindful of how you're using animations. Don't go overboard with that. And as far as your audio delivery, I think you were pretty solid. We bring the personality, bring the energy. Just really make sure that we're feeling what you're saying through how you are saying it. But again, I think you were doing a pretty solid job on that front. It's just obviously it went way too long, and I think if you're working with only 3 to 4 minutes, you'll find it very, a lot easier to really stay engaged and really work with the content for that duration. So obviously, some technical things that need to be ironed out, and then just really hitting this home and making it really work into the point, and making sure you're giving your audience all the information that they could possibly need or want to know about you and where you're coming from and how you're going to make sure that this thing operates. It's all about that credibility. You want to make sure that your audience trusts in you. And then also just one final little note is, I guess this is the name of your company and the bus that you're doing, but experience, that's a very, I don't know if that's an intentional misspelling, but that is very weird, and I don't know that it quite reads as experience. So, I mean, if that was intentional, okay, but maybe you want to reconsider it, or also just make sure you're being careful of any unintentional typos. All right, so good luck with your final draft, and of course, if you have any questions on any of this, let me know.